Welcome everyone to another episode of Slasher Scotty. I am your host Scotty McCoy, and boy do I have a surprise for you. I have on the phone right now with me Steven Culp, and he played Robert Campbell in Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday. Hi Steven, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Scotty? Should I call you Scotty or Slasher?
Doesn't matter, whatever
Or
you
maybe
would
just
like.
Slash.
Sounds great. Yeah, call me Scotty. That would be great.
Okay.
Awesome. So the first question I got for you is, how did you get your start into acting?
Oh my gosh. I didn't think anybody was going to ask that. It was so long ago. I was when I was in high school. I was kind of I had sort of a reputation in my English classes for writing funny essays,
Okay.
and I used to get asked to read them to the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was a junior, my some people in the class thought it would be a good idea. And this is like the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
This is, it'd be like 1973. And they thought it would be a funny idea to do sort of a night of like skits and stuff that we wrote and performed ourselves. So I was kind of shanghaied into being the head writer for these because people thought I was funny with my writing, and actually some of my best friends in high school were some of the funniest people I've ever known.
Mm-hmm.
So I had written some parts specifically for these people, and some of them just went, "I don't want to be in that show." So I thought, I wrote this, I can do it myself, and so I ended up doing some of the parts myself, and I actually remember that first night in front of the audience of just the roars of laughter coming from that audience, about stuff that we were doing on stage and stuff that, we had written and were performing. And I remember I just could not sleep that night. Every time I started to fall asleep, I'd hear them laughing again and I'd wake up.
Right.
And I was just jazzed. And so that got me interested in doing more plays. And then when I was in college, I had a number of different interests. I was playing music and playing in bars and little clubs and stuff, playing guitar and singing and doing some of my own writing.
Right.
But my writing kind of went by the wayside. I was never actually a great writer, I didn't think.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I started doing a lot of plays, and I kind of fell in with actors. And then I went overseas. I did my junior year abroad at the University of Exeter, and I was studying English literature. And I'd go to London on some weekends and see plays and things. And that's the year I decided, I'd had some friends who had gone off to grad school to get MFAs in theater arts.
Right.
And I thought, that's something, I think I want to try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of made that decision that year.
Awesome.
And, I remember I wrote to my mom, and what did she think? And she wrote me this just wonderful letter back that I found years later after she had passed away, and I was cleaning out the house, and she wrote me this wonderful letter back, and it was so supportive.
Awesome.
And so I applied to a couple grad schools. I got into one. I went up to Brandeis University after graduating from the College of William and Mary, which is where I had a degree in English.
Mm-hmm.
I went up to Brandeis to get an MFA in acting, and spent the whole first year thinking that I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. And it was just awful. And then about midway through the second year, it suddenly started to click in.
Right.
And I remember doing some plays that, I literally could not stop working on them. I'd just be thinking about them all the time. And just, it was, the work started to click in, and then I started to be really fascinated and compelled and challenged by the work.
Right.
And so then, I graduated from Brandeis. I spent a year there being an artist in residence and teaching and doing plays. And then I went down to New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, not knowing what was going to happen.
Right.
But I kind of immediately got jobs on soap operas, and I very quickly landed a play or two. And then before long, I was doing, I had agent. I was doing, theater, and I spent a lot of the '80s doing theater in New York and regionally. And I actually ended up working with a lot of at that time, what were considered the best playwrights and directors in the business. So it was a good time.
That's awesome. So
that's a long story. But
no problem.
That's it.
It's really interesting, and you've been in a lot of big things, including like having in one episode of American Horror Story, and I just got started.
Well, have you seen that?
I have seen it, and I knew it was you immediately. Huh?
That was such a joke. I actually went in to read for that. They sent me this thing. They sent me. There was barely anything to read.
Right.
But my agent said that it was a part that could possibly recur, and that maybe I wanted to go in and read for it because it was American Horror Story and stuff. And so I looked at it, and it wasn't actually, I wasn't actually the character that I was going to be. They just sort of, they're so secretive. They'd sort of written this scene that didn't really exist.
Right.
But I was kind of a benevolent ghost.
Okay.
And in the scene, it said that I was this girl's uncle, but I had a feeling that I was her father, and I was a ghost, but I was really trying to impart like a message of hope and good vibes.
Right.
And I thought, I kind of like this. I'd be that guy. So I went in and got put on tape by the casting director, and weeks went by and I totally forgot about it. But then I got a call, and they said, well, they've pinned me, but they don't know the date yet. Mm-hmm. And they got to get approval from the network. So I think like a month went by until they finally got it all. Okay, it's all approved. And then I had to sign all these non-disclosure agreements and agree to be at the house to sort of get the scene hand delivered and everything. Mm-hmm. And then when I got the scene, and I'm the father in this wedding, and I'm barely doing anything.
Right.
And I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe, I'm a ghost. I get shot, so maybe I'll come back as a ghost. I don't know. So then I go and shoot the thing. We spent all night shooting this thing. And it was, I liked the director, and, it was fun, I guess. But on the set, I had no sense at all that I would ever come back.
Right.
Nobody, it didn't seem to be in anybody's mind. And so then when basically I'm there just to kind of get shot. Right. And it's, it was kind of, I thought it was just funny because, it had been like a month of waiting and getting everybody to agree on it. Getting the secret scene sent to me, and then when I do it, it literally is like just blink and you'll miss me.
Right. And
I thought, wow. Anyway,
it's funny though because I remember when I seen that scene, I'm like, holy shit, is that Robert Campbell from Jason Goes to Hell? I immediately picked you up because I'm a huge, like, as you know, with my title Slasher Scotty, I'm a huge slasher and horror movie fan, and Friday the 13th is one of my all-time favorites. That and Halloween are very, like, depending on the day, they vary on which one's the number one. And I know I've been interviewing at least over 100 actors and actresses from various slasher movies. Most come from Friday the 13th, and I knew immediately. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's him. That's Steven Culp.
Well, see, other people might have said, oh, that's the guy from, it's a certain member of the audience that goes right to Friday the 13th. Yep. But I guess that coincides with American Horror Story, the audience for that.
Yep, exactly. And my next question is about I just got started into watching How to Get Away with Murder, and I am 2 seasons. I have 2 seasons left, but I did see your season, obviously the one you're in. And my question is, what was it like working on that show, and what was it like working with Viola Davis?
Well, Viola and I had actually done a series back in when was it shot? 2006.
Okay.
Called Traveler.
Mm-hmm.
That was on ABC and aired in the summer of 2007. My joke used to be, you can still smell. You can still smell it in the air where they burned it off over the summer. It was. We got about 8 episodes into it, and then they just pulled the plug, and they kept saying they were going to put it out, and then finally they put it out in the summer, and they just sort of burned it off. So Viola and I knew each other from that already, and so it was nice to sort of land on the set and to see her, and it's been a while. It had been a while since I'd seen her, and it was great to work with her. Fortunately, I didn't get to work with I only got to do one scene with her.
Yeah.
But and then Liza Weil, who was on the show, we had done a radio play just a couple years before that.
Nice.
And she's just wonderful as well.
That's awesome.
And Wayne Wilderson, who was on it, who played the prosecuting attorney.
Yeah.
I'd known him for years.
Nice.
We have the same manager, and then I think Bill Delia directed that, and I know Bill from when I was doing David Kelly shows.
Awesome.
Doing The Practice and what was the one that kept Boston Legal?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it was nice. It was nice to go on the set, and it was fun.
That's great. So now going into Jason Goes to Hell, what was your audition like for Jason Goes to Hell?
Well, it was interesting. Sort of picking up where I left off, talking about doing theater in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing pretty well in New York, and then I ended up I got a play out in Los Angeles, which brought me out to Los Angeles, and I really kind of fell in love with Los Angeles and had started to get some work out here. So I decided to move to Los Angeles, and my fiance at the time, who was a costume supervisor, costume designer, was moving out to LA as well. So I just decided to leave New York and come to Los Angeles, which I did moved out in 1989. And then I hadn't realized how much I was really going to have to start over when I got to Los Angeles. Even though I'd gotten some work there, even though I had all this theater experience in New York, it just didn't count for much. And I had a couple years where I was just really kind of in the wilderness and thought my career was over, essentially. And I was doing a lot of... there was a couple years there where I called myself the busiest unpaid actor in Los Angeles, because I was doing a lot of staged readings, and I was doing, plays in small theater for no money, what they call equity waiver plays, where, you can be in the actor's equity, but, the theater has 99 seats or less, and so you essentially do it for free, or for $5 a performance or something. And I hadn't had to do anything like that since I first got to New York and wasn't in the union yet, so I felt like, and jobs were few and far between, and I was getting kind of discouraged, and I was thinking about other things that I was going to do with my life. So in some ways, Friday the 13th for me was it was really important for me, both professionally and personally at that time. And so I was actually doing a play, and Dave Giella, who he and Barry Moss were casting people that I knew from New York, and they were out in L.A. And David came to see the play, and he goes, Barry and I we're doing this horror movie, and we want to bring you in for it. And I said, sure, anything, send me the script.
Right.
And so they did, and I have to admit that I'd never seen a Friday the 13th movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the target audience for this thing. It wasn't my kind of thing. And they sent me the script, and I was just like reading this thing the night before the audition and just thinking, my God, 2 years ago, I wouldn't have read this script, and now I'm auditioning for it. And my wife would be making dinner, and, I'd go out in the kitchen and go, read her the stage directions, like in all capital letters, pushes his face into the deep fryer, and it's just like, oh my God. So the morning of the audition, I was preparing it. I had a couple scenes to prepare, and I kind of turned on the television because at that time, there'd always be these like tabloid news shows on in the air, and some were on in the morning. And I turned on the television while I was preparing the audition just for some inspiration, and I watched a little bit of that, and I forget what shows I was watching, Maury Povich or Geraldo or whatever. Right. And I just thought, man, these shows are so trashy and ludicrous. And then I got an idea, and it occurred to me, I thought, okay, here's how I would approach this. Here's how I want to do this. And so I approached it with, it was a little tongue-in-cheek. It was pretty tongue-in-cheek. I thought, I'm gonna push this to the point of parody. To really, just so serious and taking yourself so seriously, right? That it becomes even more ludicrous and funny. And so I had this whole sort of news broadcast that I did, and I remember there was sort of a long intro to it, and then I would say, "I'm Robert Campbell." And at the time, it kind of struck me as funny. I just did this little thing. I just added a hi. So it was like, "Hi, I'm Robert Campbell." After this very dramatic, serious lead-in. And I thought, they're probably not going to go for this at all, but to hell with it. This is the way I'm going to show them. This is the way I would approach it if I were doing it. And if they don't like it, they can, they can take it or leave it.
Right.
So I get to the audition, and I remember it was a very long wait. I had to wait almost like an hour, as they were seeing people. But I went in, and there was Sean and Adam, and I believe Dean were in the room. And they were in chairs, and, I came and introduced myself and the casting person. David. I guess David and Barry were there. I can't remember which of them were there. But anyway, so I sit down and I start doing the first scene, me at the news broadcast, and I kind of see, because I'm not looking at them, I'm sort of looking at an imaginary camera.
Right.
I can kind of see out of the corner of my eye that they are just getting more and more. The more I do this, the more like grinning and tickled they're getting, and there's a couple chuckles and stuff. And then I get to the hi, and they lost it, and they just started roaring with laughter. And Sean Cunningham literally got out of the chair and started pounding his hand on the floor. They were laughing so hard, and I was like, oh, I'm among friends here. They're looking at this just like I am. And then I did I think the second scene was right, I'm on the phone and being a real jerk, and it's right before I get attacked by Jason and become Jason myself.
All right.
And so I sort of did that in the most kind of self-centered, slimy asshole way that I could. And once again, they were like, there were chuckles, they were laughing. And then right as I said the last line, I don't think I even got through it. And then I was like, ah, like I just been attacked by Jason. And Adam just lost it. And he goes, "You're a panic, man. You're a panic." And so I kind of left, I'd gone in with some skepticism, and I came out thinking, oh, these guys, they're cool. They're, we're sort of looking at this through the same eyes. And within a day, I had the job.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And then I think it was another year before we actually shot the movie. We were supposed to shoot it in the summer of 91, I think, and then it was put off until 92 or something. I don't know, but anyway, it took a while.
Yeah.
And during that time, I did a couple readings of the screenplay as they would keep rewriting it with them, with different people they were bringing in, and then we finally started shooting it in the summer of 92.
Awesome. So how was Adam Marcus like as a director?
I had such a good time doing this movie. Adam had he had such, he was, I was older than him. He had such a great youthful energy and a lot of ideas, and his idea for the movie, which I really liked, was to have it sort of, he didn't want it to be a typical Friday the 13th movie. He wanted it to be more of a thrill ride that had humor and was almost like, when Scream came out years later, I kind of thought this is what the, Jason Goes to Hell sounded like to me when Adam was talking about it.
Right.
A real sort of thrill ride with laughs and, not just teenagers having sex, getting killed, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And when we shot it, there was a lot of humor in it. And, and some of the cast, were, Leslie Jordan and Rusty Schwimmer and, others, it was a really good cast. And people kind of got the joke. And it was really, it was a lot of fun to do. But I remember sitting on that, because I'd been having real doubts about what I was going to be doing with my life, whether it was time to change careers or what I was going to do.
Right.
And but I remember the first day, and we were shooting out in Thousand Oaks, and I'm sitting, on the set, with, and at that point I've what we were shooting, I already had, sort of blood on me. I had already become Jason, and and it was just, and I'm sitting there doing this little horror film, with all the horror makeup on, and I remember just sitting in the cast chair, thinking, I really like this. I am really at home here.
Nice.
This is fun.
Yeah.
And it really, and doing that movie at that time, it was really kind of important for me because it was kind of like, because because of what it was, it was sort of like getting back to playing as a kid again, like when you were playing cowboys or cops and robbers or something.
Right.
It was just really about make-believe. And I think, where I had been really kind of starting to take the work maybe too seriously and too, just getting wrapped up in the grind of like trying to, auditioning and trying to get jobs, and then just having this thing come along that was just total playtime.
Right, exactly.
And that I didn't have to take seriously because of what it was. So in a way, I was able to take it seriously in just the right way. Do you know what I mean?
I definitely know what you mean. I interviewed Adam Marcus, and it was his first movie that he was directing. He knew what he wanted. Like he really, I think he did a really good job, and he made the movies different because it gets old after a while seeing Jason slash a bunch of teenage people at Camp Crystal Lake who are having premarital sex and doing drugs.
Right.
So mix it up a little bit. So the next question I got for you is, what was your most memorable moment while filming Jason Goes to Hell: The Final Friday?
Oh heck, that's really, I don't know. I can't tell you. Every day pretty much was a fun day, and there was always something. There was always something fun and good to do, and what I did find out about myself. Well, going back to that first day again, I had done some, I'd done one of my first big jobs on TV was doing this miniseries, this Abraham Lincoln. And I was there for 8 weeks, and so I had gotten a lot of experience doing that and had done a number of TV shows. But it was a little different, and I felt like I was really able – I discovered that I had a lot to bring to the table as far as being inventive and bringing in ideas and thinking and just being able to sort of come in and kind of – when you go onto the set, there's a way you can sort of very graciously claim your space.
Right.
And I remember the first day there was, I think what we were shooting was when I as Jason first appeared to Carrie Keegan in the garage or something like that. And it was just a very simple little scene where I think, she turns around and sees me and goes like, "What's wrong?" And we sort of rehearsed it and blocked it. And I was like, this needs something. And so I just said, can we try this? And I did this thing where instead of just her turning around, I would actually kind of grab her by the shoulders and pivot her around so that we would like reverse positions.
Right.
And it was like, that gives it it's just a little more dramatic and emphatic. And it gives her a little more time, a little more to respond to.
Right.
And I realized, that was kind of, it wasn't much, but it was like this inventive little thing. And every day was kind of like that, where you were kind of like making things up and being very supported by Adam and by Sean and by the crew. A real camaraderie develops with the crew.
Right.
And so there was, every day was kind of like that. It had something else to add.
That's awesome.
To that. I do remember there was one day where where I first had squibs going off on me. Which I had never happened to me before, where I would be shot. And was this the end of me as Jason? I think it might have been.
Was it the scene in the diner?
Yeah, there was the scene in the diner, and then, no, first I get shot and go up against the wall, and then Mark and Brian come in, and I bash their heads together, and then it keeps going on. So this is when I first get shot, and I'd never, gotten shot before, and I had like, a whole bunch of squibs going off on me. So, and the effects guys were going, you're getting your squib cherry broken. But I remember at the time it was like, okay, we only want to do this once.
Right.
So I actually had, I asked for just a few extra minutes so that I could sort of walk through the motions of everything I was going to do, pretend I was getting hit, land against the wall, slide down against the wall, and they let me rehearse that a couple times.
Right.
So that I'd know exactly what I was doing before the squibs went off.
Awesome.
So that then I could react fully to the squibs and trust that my body would know what it was doing. And and that was fun.
That's awesome. So
the diner scene was fun. It was all fun. It was all fun.
So while you were Jason, what was your favorite kill that you got to perform?
I'm not sure I remember. I mean, I remember pushing Leslie Jordan's face into the deep fryer.
Yeah.
I remember the last one with Allison Smith.
Yep.
As she...
She, I think, got impaled with a poker.
I'm not really sure. I guess I don't really know. I wasn't really rating my kills.
Okay. I thought with Rusty Schwimmer, it was hilarious because she was always that loud mouth, and I interviewed her.
Wait, so with Rusty Schwimmer, what did I do with her again?
You end up elbowing her and her mouth like kind of imploded inside, like shutting her big yap.
Yeah, that was fun. She was, Rusty's great.
Yes.
Leslie Jordan. I thought they were, everybody on it was really fun to work with, but they just cracked me up.
Yes.
And actually the diner scene was kind of fun to do. I had, I'd actually, by that time I'd sort of boned up on some Friday the 13th movies, but I'd also spent some time, rewatching video of Terminator 2.
Awesome.
And sort of studying how Schwarzenegger and Robert Patrick, how they moved and what they did. And, it's interesting, especially without the mask, because this is one thing I really liked about, because I felt like, okay, I'm the main Jason in this movie before Jason really comes back.
Right.
And especially without the mask, it's not like you're just some mindless automaton.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There are things going through whatever passes for your mind. Mm-hmm. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I actually had. I remember I had books. Had a number of books in my little honey wagon dressing room. Mm-hmm. I had a autobiography of Geraldo Rivera that I was reading for inspiration for Robert, and I had a book about serial killers and serial killer cases and sort of case studies of that psychology. And I even actually had, you'll laugh, but I had a copy of Paradise Lost. And I was reading certain sections about the devil because something's always going through your mind.
Right.
Even if you're Jason, you've got actions that you're planning, you've got things that you're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And you've got things that get you off, you got things that make you angry, you've got things that intrigue you. It's not a blank mind, and especially without the mask, it's not like you're making expressions or faces, but you've got to be thinking, and you got to have things that you're trying to do. Otherwise, you're just kind of moving like a robot.
Right. Exactly.
And so it was important to me to kind of have that going on in my head, and then to have it translate through my body in a way that was very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? That had forward momentum. Yes. That was inexorable and unstoppable.
Exactly.
Until I was finally stopped.
Right. And
and just, yeah.
Right. And I know you didn't have any scenes with Kane Hodder. Was he on set at all when you were there? Did he
was on
guide
set.
you?
Yeah.
Did he guide you with the way to portray Jason, or was that given to you? Basically, they said, "Hey, Steven, do it in your own way. Make Jason your own."
Nobody ever actually said that to me.
Okay.
But that's what I tried to do.
Okay.
Although I also watched Kane, in the earlier movies, and I can't remember specifically, but I know that he was on set, and I know I must have checked him with him sometimes to say, how's that? How does that look?
Right.
Is that, but when I was doing it, I thought it was definitely, it was me doing Jason, because that was part of the kick of this movie. It was you're actually seeing a face of Jason without the hockey mask.
Exactly.
And he's being channeled through this character.
Right, exactly. Now, what was that slug-like demon that was used as, I guess you could say, the spirit or whatever of Jason? Now, what was that made of? How was that done?
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I kind of figured when I added that question in.
So the guys at KNB, I can't remember. Oh, I think it was actually, okay, maybe I'm misremembering, but I believe that when we were doing it in the scene, when we're actually sort of making, mouth-to-mouth contact, and it was coming out of Andy Black's mouth, or did it ever come out of my mouth? I can't remember.
I think it came out of was it your neck, or was that the officer's neck off the top of my head?
But I think I think maybe there were scenes where I was trying to do it to Carrie.
Yes.
And so you saw it try to come out of my mouth?
Yes, I do. I did. I remember that.
It really literally is some appendage that, and I forget exactly what it was made out of, but
Right.
you'd put it on your tongue.
Okay.
So it would sort of, it was something that you could insert your tongue into.
Okay. Nice.
It was that simple.
That's all it takes
and
sometimes.
you'd sort of stick out your tongue, and the little alien guy would be, trying to come out of your mouth.
Right. That's awesome. So, what was the best part about filming Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday, and what was the worst?
Once again, it's hard for me to tell you about a best thing because my experience pretty much every day
Right.
was a really good, fun experience. I don't really recall any day where I was just like going, God, I hate this. This is a pain. Adam was really fun to work with. The cast and the crew were all great to work with.
Right.
There was one night, and now I can't say that they went overboard sometimes to provide us with accommodations. I mean, it was a low budget movie, and there was this one night where it was the diner where I was totally covered in blood,
Right.
and and we had to drive home. We shot all night, and there were no showers.
Right.
So I had to basically strip down to my underwear and get hosed off.
Oof.
And nobody really thought about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think I was a little okay, guys, because I had to drive home.
Right.
I couldn't just go home, and a lot of that blood, it was sort of sugar-based and sticky.
Right.
And
right. Imagine getting pulled
so
over.
They had to sort of hose me off, which was kind of embarrassing because I'm just in my underwear.
Right.
And, then you start hosing that off, and nowadays it would be, people, you risk exposing yourself to people. But I remember Sean pulling up in his car right around that time, right when I was getting hosed off, and and I remember I sort of went up to his car like I was a monster or something. As he got out, and I was like, all right, it doesn't get any better than this, Sean. And he sort of burst out laughing.
That's funny.
So the actual the filming of it was just a kick.
Right. That's good.
So if you want to talk about the worst thing, though, and I have to say this is one of the reasons why I haven't really done that many, interviews or documentaries about it.
Right.
Is because actually seeing the film for me and doing the film were two different experiences.
Right.
As I say, I'm not the target audience for this movie. But I did think that, and the story goes that when they took the cut to New Line, New Line was like, oh, where's all the teenagers having sex and getting killed?
Right. Exactly.
They wanted it to be more of a regular Friday the 13th movie. And so then they shot the scene, which was totally inserted, in reshoots with Michael Silver and Michelle Clooney, which was, Adam and Sean being who they were. Okay, you want us to do this? So it looked to me like they just made it the most over-the-top, violent, gory teenagers having sex scene that they could possibly do.
Yeah.
And put that in there. But then I also feel like in the editing, a lot of the tongue-in-cheekness, a lot of humor kind of went away.
Yeah.
And that it just, for me, became a lot of over-the-top violence and gore. Yeah. And I had really ambivalent feelings about watching that.
Yeah.
And being, and it's like, that's just my taste. Yeah. But I had not long after that, after the movie came out, I'd be back home visiting my parents and stuff, and with some of my high school friends, and some of them were more religious than I was, and they would go, Steve, how could you do that?
Right.
And I was thinking, and I couldn't really explain to them, how much fun it was to work on and how much it sort of
Right.
meant as a working experience. And part of me just wanted to go, oh, what are you talking about? To heck with you. But then there was a part of me that kind of went, yeah, I get it. I see what you're saying.
Exactly.
And I had ambivalent feelings about being in it and kind of making money off of it. And because for me, when it's just about kind of over the top violence and gore, I have a lot of ambivalence as to the value of that.
Right.
And so, sometimes when I've been approached about doing documentaries and stuff, I've sort of begged off because, I figure, well, in the editing, they'll just have all the good things for me to say about it. But I don't want to be seen as sort of totally just glorifying this.
Right. Exactly.
And so actually that's one of the reasons why why I agreed to talk with you today, because I figure, well, it's a podcast, and so he'll let me sort of tell the whole story.
Absolutely. And that's kind of how I want to run my podcast. It's like I want people I don't want them to glorify it, because I know that there's a lot of people that enjoy these movies, and a lot of the actors, they come on and they say that I had fun doing it, but it was a job. That's my job. I'm an actor. I'm not a fan of horror. I'm not a fan of the franchise. I was doing it for a paycheck.
Yeah, well, for me, the paycheck, as movie money goes, it wasn't a big paycheck.
Right.
But for me at the time, it was a good paycheck, and it was a very important paycheck. And
Right.
But for me, it was more than just the paycheck. I mean, as I say, it was really about, I kind of, oddly enough, this sort of crazy horror film.
Yep.
Allowed me to kind of reconnect with what I was doing in a very kind of fundamental way, and kind of get back to why I wanted to do it and what was fun about it for me.
Right.
And it sort of led me back into saying, yeah, acting, that's what I want to do. I really, really feel at home here. This is where I want to be.
Absolutely.
And I, Jason was one of the things during this time period that really sort of turned me around on that. And once again, a lot of it had to do with the people I was working with.
Absolutely.
And how much fun it was, working with, Adam and with Sean and with the rest of the cast, and our very hardworking crew and all those great guys at K&B, special effects. Because we spent a lot of time together, like making masks of me and, working up effects and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. It was awesome. It was really a lot of fun in a great many ways. And I would have to say more than just a paycheck.
That's awesome.
Although I did appreciate the paycheck. Right.
And that makes me happy hearing that, because these movies, like 30, 40 years later, have huge, still have a huge following, which is amazing after all this time.
I still get residuals. They're not big.
Right.
But I still get them.
That's awesome.
Although I have to say, I saw the movie at the premiere, and then I took my agent and some friends to see it like the next week. And I have to confess to you, I have a VHS copy of it, but I've only seen it the 2 times.
Okay.
Because once again, because I have just my response to the violence and the gore of it.
Right.
Exactly. I'm just not comfortable with it.
Right. And the last question I actually have for you is, do you have any projects, social media accounts, or websites that you'd like to promote to the listening audience?
I am not on social media. Okay. There are times in the past that I've, thought, well, maybe I should get on Facebook to, just for business reasons. And then people would go, oh, you mean stalk book? And so I would sort of beg off. And, maybe Twitter, but I always like to say I'm a proud member of TwitFace. But I'm not, and then I had one friend, who said, when are you going to get your ass on Facebook? And I said, oh, all this time I've been trying to get my face on Assbook. No wonder. but I'm not on any social media. Okay. I will tell a story though, if you have a moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually just did a TV show. Okay. I find myself in a similar sort of situation that I was in around the time I did Jason, because the landscape of the business is changing, and especially now, during the pandemic, it was kind of going this way anyway, but now anytime you audition for things, and of necessity during the pandemic, it's all self-tapes.
Right.
You're putting yourself on tape, and you're sending it out into the ether.
Right.
And it was getting this way even before the pandemic. More and more and more, you would either self-tape or you would go in and you'd be put on tape by the casting director. But now you don't even get to interact with casting. Wow. Now you're just doing it. My wife reads with me. We set it up in a little corner of the house, and I do the auditions, and they're good auditions. But for me, all the good jobs, I would say 98% of the great jobs that I've ever had have been because I actually went into the room and met the people.
Right.
What I described to you, meeting Sean and Adam and Dean, that wouldn't have happened now.
Oh, my God.
I would have been put on tape. And maybe something would have happened after that. But, the personal chemistry that can happen in a room, I feel like self-tapes are all, there's always been, to a certain extent, to a large extent, it's been about physical type, character type, etc. But now with self-tapes, all you're getting is just the person doing this audition. And this world where there's no personal interaction, where you don't get to meet, where you don't get to, establish a rapport with the people. You don't get to talk about the character or the script or anything.
Right.
This world where people are just sort of scrolling through images quickly, trying to find something that they like, is not a world that I feel like I can thrive in, or that I'm really, want to be a part of. So I'd been sort of, I had started, once we sort of came back, everybody started going back to work in the fall, I had started to do auditions again. And, at this point in my career, I don't audition for everything that I'm asked to. Some of these kind of paint by numbers guest star roles, I'm just like, look, do I really have to read for this? Tell them to make me an offer, or otherwise, I'm not really going to, I've got, I got too many credits.
Right. I was going to say, your resume speaks for itself.
Yeah. I mean, come on, you really need me to read for this to make a decision.
Right.
So, and also it's a good way, to burn yourself out, to just audition for everything coming down the pike. So, and especially now that it involves not just me, but members of my family helping me. I told my agents, I said, if it's something that I find compelling in a certain way, in any kind of way, I'm glad to sort of take everybody's time to do it.
Yeah.
But if it's not, I'm not going to do it, because it kind of takes a village here to get the audition done. So, but anyway, I was kind of doing, doing these self-tapes and just thinking, how much longer am I going to do this?
Right.
When am I going to pull the plug? When am I going to collect my pension and ride off to the sunset?
Right.
But I did this audition for a show, SEAL Team.
Okay.
And it was just playing the judge. And when I got actually the audition sides, I was like, I can't believe how many ways can I say sustained, overruled? I'm just the judge. But it occurred to me, I said, well, judges can always recur.
Yes.
You can always bring back the judge if you need the judge again. So I thought, okay, I'll put myself on tape for it. And, a couple weeks went by and I actually got the judge.
Nice.
So I was a little leery about going back to work, because I didn't know how it was going to be, the safety of it and the protocols and everything. But it was actually, big kudos to the studios and to the unions for everybody getting together on some really workable protocols.
Absolutely.
And you still have to be alert. I mean, because
Yes.
you're still working in close contact with people, and there's no way you can do this without you can't socially distance the entire time.
Right.
But and everybody's getting tested constantly. Yeah, and the protocols are really great. So I was very relieved to work on it.
That's
But the
awesome.
other thing that happened was I found that as soon as I got on the set, even though I was just being the judge, there were certain crew members that I'd worked with before. There was a script supervisor in wardrobe I knew from JAG.
Nice.
The makeup people a couple of them were from Bosch. The head of the hair department was from Desperate Housewives, and so
Right.
I knew a lot of the people, but there was just almost instantly this sort of camaraderie that develops with the crew, with the, I was working very in close with the camera people and the sound people and the director, and almost kind of immediately you just start striking up a rapport with them and figuring out little bits of business that you can do and how to make this moment more effective and all the things that you really start to love about being on the set. And I remember just thinking, wow, I'm so at home here.
Right.
I really like being here. And it did remind me of that day, when I first started working on the Jason movie again, thinking, oh yeah, I really like this. This is really like home to me. I really enjoy this. Even though I'm just being the judge, this is really terrific, and I feel like I'm in my creative element. And it was really fun. And so anyway, so I guess I'll go on doing these self-tape auditions a little while longer. And then I had done, right before the pandemic, I had just finished doing 2 plays back to back in Los Angeles. And unfortunately that, I'm not sure when theater is going to come back.
Yeah. It's sad. It really is.
But that's something that I can imagine, especially now that my kids are now sort of grown and out of high school and, starting to go to college. And I'm a little freer about, I hadn't done a play, like a small theater for free play in Los Angeles since they were born. If I ever did a play, it would be at a larger theater, and it would be only when I felt like I could afford it. But now, they're kind of grown, and so I just did 2 back-to-back plays, small theater plays in Los Angeles that were really fun and challenging. And once again, it was all about, oh, why did I do this? Why did I start doing this in the first place? Oh, yeah. And, so I'm hoping that at some point, we can get back to doing plays in front of a live audience again, because I know that that's something I would look forward to doing.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so that's what's going on with me right now.
Awesome. Well, I thank you so much, Steven, for your time.
Well, thank you, Scotty. I enjoyed talking to you.
I enjoyed talking to you as well. I really enjoyed it, and I think we had a really good interview. So, again, I thank you so much. I enjoyed you in your work, obviously, on How to Get Away with Murder, and with obviously Jason Goes to Hell. So, I mean, you have an impressive resume.
Well, thanks. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You have a good rest of your day, and you stay safe.
Okay, you
All
too.
right.
Take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.